just bought this 2011 Corvette Grand Sport at Copart for $6,000. And I know what you're thinking. Why? Sure, it's wrecked, burned, and yellow, but on the other hand, it's got a fat supercharger hanging off the front. The master plan here, see if we can salvage enough off this vet to get the LS3 engine and the blower for free. And yes, we're in for quite the challenge. So much of this Corvette's just destroyed. I mean, there's not a single usable part in the interior. The driver's side body panels, they're all melted off. The rear of the car, maybe we got an exhaust out of it. The wheels, the brakes up here on the front, which is further away from where the fire started, are just roasted. The suspension, it's absolute mess. Even the good side of the car is still pretty rough. The front bumper got melted in half like Two-Face. The suspension got cooked so badly that the car is practically sitting on the ground. Then it gets slightly better, I guess, until we get back here to the wide body rear quarter panel, which I know this isn't looking like such a hot buy so far, but on the bottom, it gets worse, believe it or not.
This is actually pretty impressive.
It feels weird calling this impressive, but there's not really a better word for it. Look at the leaf spring. This is some damage. This intercooler pipe got ripped off. The mounts on the bottom of the intercooler, they're completely gone. We really did it this time. This stuff, it's not underpaneling, it's not a splash shield. This was the floor before the fire. This is just one of those cars that it doesn't feel quite safe to stand downwind from. The rear is maybe more impressive than the front. That's our transmission. Still not quite ready to write this exhaust off, even though it has a bunch of dirt stuck inside. When I bought this gem at auction, I didn't think it was wrecked back here. I thought it hit something in the front, little fire, and kind of just engulfed the whole car. But after giving it a look, I'm positive that this is where the fire started. They hit something back here hard enough to break the control arm, to rip the axle out of the transmission. And that, mixed with this, is, well, not great. This guy's an auxiliary fuel pump. It's pretty common to add a secondary fuel pump on these when you do a supercharger or turbos. The downside, though, is you have these exposed fuel lines coming out of the back of your fuel tank, and if you wreck the driver rear corner, this is what happens. None of this really bodes too well for us to be able to pull $6,000 out of it and claim our free engine. But I am still optimistic, because once you look past all the damage, there's still a lot of good salvageable parts. We got this wide body front fender, the headlight, I think that survived. This wheel, even some of the suspension in this big Z06 style brake caliper survived. If you look down through all the burnt garbage, we have a nice set of aftermarket headers, and the best I can tell, they're not damaged. We've got
Possible blood off in an intercooler.
Blow-off valve. That's the next big takeaway here, precision blow-off valve. We've definitely got an uphill battle here, but if history's any indicator, the last crispy Corvette I bought, we made like $13,000 on. Will this be another huge W, or will we, you know, get burned? I am so sorry for that, guys. Now, there is one thing we haven't really stopped to consider here. Is this engine even good? I don't know. After all, if it didn't get roasted by the fire, there's at least a decent chance that it got full of water from this open oil cap, though it did have a hood laid loosely over it, so I'm cautiously optimistic. Either way, we have plenty of time to worry about that once we dig through here and see what's what. For now, though, we gotta pull some money out of it. I'm thinking, what better place to start than this front passenger corner? This passenger headlight that I was hoping was gonna be good is completely melted on the bottom. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still some value here, the lens, the internals, but this just went from a $400 headlight to like a $150 headlight. And that's not even the worst news. This inner fender structure, which from the top I genuinely thought was going to be good, got from the bottom as well. On cars like this Grand Sport with the wide body fenders, that's an $800 piece, and unlike our headlight over there, this one is just junk. It took 5 minutes for this to go from a challenge to a challenge. Next up, we need to get this door off, and the latches are electronic, so, well, you probably see where this is going. I'm not going to pretend to be excited about this part. What's the scrap price of aluminum?
Probably like 2 cents.
Yeah, we need all the cents we can get.
Yo.
All right, that wasn't so bad. Now that I'm in here, though, I am kind of curious. That's an aftermarket radio, and it's not melted.
I'm not gonna lie, I need one for the Z.
If that works, you'll use it in your Z?
I don't see why not.
How much you paying for it?
Nothing. Oh, come on. It's damaged. Nobody's gonna buy it, right? What about the shifter?
What about it?
You have to take it off too?
No. Well, normally you would. We're not gonna take it off. We're gonna just...
Try to keep the climate control too. That's probably good.
Yeah, about that. There's a chance this could be good, but it got waterlogged. I wouldn't feel confident selling this to somebody. This though, if this thing's good, I know somebody I won't feel bad at all selling it to.
I got $10.
Sold. There's no way this works, right?
Nah.
Oh my God. Remember, you're committed to pay 10 bucks for this if it turns on. 3, 2. It's gotta be a oh, there we go.
It's all pink. Okay.
Alpine. Oh, okay. We're gonna have to do 50.
No.
50 for this. Look.
What?
Well, we're gonna work our way out of this hole $10 at a time, apparently. That is a wrap on the exterior of the car, and as you probably imagine, when we started this whole deal, we didn't get very much. We've got a mirror, this is $100. We have an A-pillar, that's 50. The most expensive part we have out of this whole deal is this front fender. We're gonna call that $650. The door shell somehow survived pretty well. The glass, it is burned up pretty good, but that's over window tint, so somebody can peel that off, put new glass in it, whatever they wanna do. And then there's this rear quarter panel. If it wasn't all mauled up in the rear like that, it would be $600, $700, even $800. They're specific to the convertibles. They're worth a lot of money, to the point where I think somebody's still gonna try to fix this, even though it is bad. Like, bad. In the end, we might get $250 out of that. And then we have stuff like the ECU, that's a cool $100. One kind of overlooked part, the ECU connectors. The rest of this engine harness is completely melted, so we salvaged this off. All in all, and yes, this is how we're keeping track of this whole deal, after the interior and the body, we have $1,750. Not great. We still have quite the balance due on this car, if you will. The next place I think we can make up a little bit of that money though, wheels, suspension, brakes. You'll love to see it. We're starting off on the right foot here. Sure, there's a little soot damage on the suspension, but the part that's most prone to being melted by fire, the rubber bushings, they're perfectly fine. When I pulled that wheel off, I didn't know what to expect. Were we gonna have ourselves a nasty surprise like this fender tub? Was it gonna be all burnt up like the driver's side? Or were we gonna be able to salvage something? Turns out salvage something it is. Not quite the smoothest removal there, but hey, it's a nice $150 piece, and believe it or not, these are really popular with kit car guys because of the simplicity of the design of the control arms. As for the rest of the suspension, the sway bar, the steering rack, they're cooked on the other side. These magnetic ride shocks, these things are junk even when they haven't been in a car fire. If we get any of these above, say, 50,000 miles, we pretty much just write them off. They always leak, they always fail. It's really hard to get these in good enough shape to sell. On the driver's side, I think it probably goes without saying that there's really just not much we can do with it. We might, though, get lucky enough to get ourselves a brake caliper. It's definitely not the worst caliper I've ever pulled off a vet, and sometimes in the salvage world, that's enough to make some money. Yeah, it has soot damage all over it, but these are made to be exposed to heat. And when we start looking on the inside, the dust boots aren't even damaged. These guys are so popular for brake swaps that no matter how jacked up the car is, we're virtually always going to be able to pull at least $150 a caliper for a core. I did say almost always. This, however, would not be one of those times. Luckily, we were able to get one more good caliper off the other side for a cool $250, bringing the grand total for every bit of suspension we pulled off this car to a not so grand $800. I was really hoping we were going to be able to get some kind of suspension out of this corner. It just wasn't in the cards. I'm hoping though that we can add a few dollars to that number if any of these wheels manage to survive. That is way straighter than I thought it was going to be. This is that rear wheel. Not that I thought it was going to be damaged, but I thought something was going to be wrong with it. Hey, that certainly could have went worse, and while it's not going to put us in the green right off the bat, we're pointed in the right direction. Now, if these wheels were minty fresh, they're like $500 a piece, but these ones, they're just not that nice. They have some gouges in the lips, and probably more importantly, they have some discoloration on the back from all the heat they saw, so at the most, I think we're gonna get half that. And that brings our current total to just over $3,000. And considering we haven't touched the drivetrain yet, I think we can still get this done. Honestly though, that's part of what makes salvage auction so fun for me. Sometimes it's a true gamble when you have to work for every penny, and then other times you buy a stolen Hellcat and it's an easy money $10,000 profit home run. As you can probably tell with the help of my new friend Gary here, I'm thrilled to announce the sponsor of today's video, Sundays. Sundays is fresh dog food made from a short list of human-grade ingredients. It contains 90% meat, 10% vegetables, and 0 synthetic nutrients. Dog parents report noticeable health improvements in their pups, including softer fur, fresher breath, better poops, and more energy when switching to Sundays. Unlike other fresh dog food, Sundays doesn't require refrigeration or preparation because of their air drying process. Just pour and serve. With Sundays, there's finally an easy way to make sure you're feeding your dog food with the best of the best ingredients. What we're getting at here, Sundays makes it easy to feed your dog top quality food if you're busy, if you're stuck at the shop building a piece of junk like this, or if you're just swamped at a normal place of work. Every order ships right to your door, so you'll never have to worry about running out of dog food again. And if there's any question whether your doggo's gonna love it, well, you can just take Gary's word for it. Sundays even gave us a deal for today's video. You can get 50% off your first order by going to sundaysfordogs.com/ScrapLife or by using code ScrapLife at checkout. Hey guys, before we get back to work here, Gary here is a foster dog in need of a loving home, so if you or anyone you know is looking for an awesome pup, reach out to Paws and Pistons. They're a nonprofit founded by car guys just like us, and I'll have all their info down in the description. All right, so I have good news and bad news. Good news, I know it started the fire. Do you wanna, you got any ideas what the bad news might be?
Oh, yeah.
You do?
Do we have an engine?
We have an engine.
Okay.
That's not great at all. And just the cherry on top here, it's not one side. Something has exited from this block on both sides. So when we had this car outside on a forklift, I didn't really get under it too well. Yeah. Do you have an analysis?
Yeah, you just can't help buying junk, can you?
No, I really can't.
You're like a magnet for junk.
That is a fact. That's a factual statement. This is a bad engine failure, and now I'm just kind of looking forward to what we see when we pull the engine. Yeah, we might still get it for free, but it just looks like something somebody would give us for free. All this time in a mask, respirator for this.
Oh.
That's not coming out real well. What do you want to bet there's a piece of metal wedged in there?
$10. You need a magnet?
Oh, there's 100% metal back there. Okay. So, yeah, this sucks, but I'm going to spin it here. It's a science project now. We're going to find out what happens when a rod comes out both sides of an LS3 supercharged block. Now that we found those inspection holes in the side of the block, I think it's pretty clear what happened here. He was out doing race car stuff, it chucked the rod out the side of the block, it oiled down the road, everything underneath the car. I think that's what caused the wreck, and just like we suggested before, the wreck caused the fire. At this point, there's really not much more to do than just rip this engine out and see what we're working with, and I'm still holding out hope that we're gonna have ourselves a good supercharger, or I don't know, maybe once we get that off, we'll find a hole in that too. Sure, it goes without saying that the financial viability of this whole deal is really not looking so hot anymore, and we might be grasping at straws, but we're trying. We're gonna pull off this precision blow-off valve that is surely just toasted. I mean, the gasket is, yeah, you see. If anybody would like to give me $3 for this, I could really use it at this very moment.
You should ask 50 for it.
At $50, Fernando will hand deliver this anywhere in the continental U.S. So you have his word, trust me.
No.
He's shaking his head yes
No.
behind the camera right
No.
now, yes. I think at least we have everything disconnected that we need to. And anything we forgot, we're just gonna test the braking strength of, because I don't care at this point. Probably a good idea. They really did us a solid on the one side. We didn't even have to hit that last bolt back there because it sheared the subframe clean off. Exactly how we drew it up. That feels very wrong to do, but honestly, like, what else are we gonna hurt? What a hunk of shit. I couldn't be happier to get this chassis out of the shop. Maybe it'll start smelling normal in here at some point. It is gonna do us one solid though, and pull us like $350 in scrap value. Not that I expected any of the stuff in the rear end to be good by any means, but still, this is impressive damage. That subframe corner that got completely ripped off, the axles on both sides, they got ripped out. This is rough. Absolute best case scenario back here. If we're really lucky, we're gonna be able to sell these as cores. This is a 6L80 transmission. The diffs are worth a few bucks. We might get like $750 out of them combined. We could possibly call it another $750 for the headers and exhaust. That gives us on our absolute best day, assuming all this stuff sells for exactly what we say it's gonna, $5 grand. Which means the only possible way we're gonna meet our goal. A couple days ago, we decided to bring in a random guy off the street and start fixing some of our junk. Tim, welcome to the team. You like cars and whatnot, right? You work on them once in a while. Would this do you any good? A vibrant vacuum manifold? It's been in a light fire, but it's probably usable.
It's pre-burnt.
Would you be willing to pay $1,000 for it?
I'll give you $350.
$350?
No, $3.50.
Okay, well, that's not gonna work. Anyway, all right. Now, the craziest thing that I've seen on this so far isn't necessarily the holes in the block, is that despite this fire, I think the intake manifold might have survived. I just kind of assumed that this was gonna be melted, that it'd have a hole in it. It's not pretty by any means, but the throttle body's not locked up. It's not melted through. And honestly, once we brush all this junk off it, it just looks like a normal dirty intake manifold. We can't sell this for full price, that's for sure, but I certainly wouldn't hesitate to save it and use it on one of my projects.
What's your guess on this?
I genuinely don't have a clue what this is. It's nasty though, really nasty. One thing that doesn't look disgusting though, the inside of the cylinder heads, that has a little bit of corrosion. Otherwise they're in decent shape. Is that metal or plastic? That's just a piece of dirt, I guess. It's not metal. We're not finding metal yet. Now, one thing I've been waiting to do so we don't lose all hope on this build if this does not go our way is pull the intake off here. I genuinely have not looked in there, and it spins. It's not locked up. You want to go ahead and do the honors? It's about that time. No.
Oh, okay.
It's not that kind of day. If this impeller's chewed up, if the shaft's bent, if there's damage to the housing, if there's anything wrong with this,
What would you do?
I'm not gonna be happy.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. All right. Hey, that's not too bad. Check her out. It works. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna get ourselves a blower out of this, at least hopefully. I don't think there's anything else that can go wrong at this point. And maybe some other engine parts. See, we just needed a day to get over the sting of what happened to our engine here. Things are back on track.
How much money do you think that you're gonna ask for that?
That's a good question. So my original intent with this whole deal was truly to get a free engine and a free blower for one of my projects. I didn't want to sell this. Clearly we're not rebuilding this engine. It's for parts now. The extras from that will get sold. This blower though, I do kind of want to put this on something. The question is what? Because I don't even know what power this makes. All my cars have root style blowers, the Demon, the ZR1, but there is one car in the shop that has the same type of centrifugal blower. So I guess comparing it to this, we can kind of get an idea how much power it's gonna make. At least externally, these look pretty much the same. This is a Paxton 1500 SL with a 325 pulley on it. This is a V3 Ti Vortec, I believe. And this one's got a 3.4 pulley on it. Now, I know he spec'd this thing to make, I think, 550, 575 horsepower. That was what it was, or?
I feel like you baited me into this where I have to come over and defend myself. You're picking on the car that isn't even running yet for some reason.
Well, to be fair, it's in year 2 of the build. It should be running.
I think it's like year 4, if I'm not mistaken. This blower setup should make somewhere right about 800 wheel. I don't know a ton about those 1500 blowers, but a 3.2 something pulley is a small pulley. That thing had to have been running some serious RPM.
You know what? That explains it. That explains the hole in the block. You guys can probably tell from the whole conversation we just had, neither of us are really that educated when it comes to centrifugal blowers. So if any of you are, go down in the comments, tell us what kind of power this car is making, and tell me what kind of power I can expect to make if I put this on something cool like, I don't know, a iron block or something. I do think it's pretty well established on this channel that we rarely get into the whole life lessons type thing. But something that's been on my mind since we took apart this car is how fast things can go south when you're driving cars with 600, 700, 800 horsepower. If what we think happened is actually what happened, that means it wasn't driver error, it was just somebody out enjoying their car like any one of us would do, and it just didn't work out. It's one of those things that could really just happen to any one of us. It's a rough situation. But anyway, enough with the life lessons here. Why do we have stock valve springs in this thing? I did not expect that. Even the mildly built cars we get in here now have dual valve springs. These are stock push rods that, oh my God, look how rusty they are. Yeah, what was I just saying there? Holy shit. Straight. So I expected this to be bad. Okay, the rest are pretty, never mind. Wow, this is something. This is impressive. And not only that, but if you kind of look at the valves here, these are all supposed to be the same height. Assuming that the valve seat is sealing against the surface of the valve, they'd all be level, and they are definitely not that. Oh, shit. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is impressive. I haven't even blown anything up this bad. That's saying something. Look, that piston's cracked in half. Do you see that?
I seriously don't know how you end up with a wrist pin and a connecting rod on top of a piston, though.
That is a great question. You know, I've never seen that either. That's impressive. So this should just like, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, piston's doing gymnastics.
Oh.
Yeah, rings are still good.
Wow.
This is something. This is the most spectacular failure we've ever had in this shop, right? Am I wrong on that, guys? So, perfect. Exactly what you want your valve to look like. I'm curious how the head held up. I mean, you can see where it hit, but it's not that bad. It's really tough for me to understand why all these valves are bent. It makes perfect sense that on the 2 cylinders where the rods are broken that the valves would be bent, but all of them are, except that cylinder somehow. I don't know exactly what could have caused that, except maybe valve float because of these stock valve springs. Maybe he decided to send it really high RPM and it just did not hold up to it. I don't know, maybe one of you guys have a better theory what happened. If you do, now's the time to go put it in the comments. So yeah, that's a stock cam. This is as stock as an LS3 gets, and they threw a ton of boost at it. Everybody that I know that's made 800, 900 horsepower through a stock LS3, they've at least done valve train, a cam. They've taken some steps to make sure it's not gonna end up like this. Oh, there's more hole. I just pulled the engine mount bracket off. It goes even further than I thought. Look at that. Look at the knock sensor where that used to mount. This is where the oil pan used to bolt to. The oil pan's f***ed. Everything is just f***ed. Also, I think it's safe to say it was knocking, probably, right, Fernando? There may have been some knocking. I'm fully anticipating for this just to be the crescendo of this whole thing. This has to be gnarly. I didn't even get a full look inside. I just hear metal. Wow.
Wow, look at here. Oh.
There's part of the timing chain guide. The rest of this metal looks mainly like block material. The windage tray is so bent there, I can't even get a socket on that one. Oh, there we go. Here we go.
Is that Bluetooth pistons?
Yes, and also Bluetooth timing chain. Did it break and cause this? Or did it break because of this? That's what I don't know. There we go. There's another one.
Oh, this is the crack one. Okay.
Now, we did already turn this thing over when we were pulling the torque converter, but I want to see it. Oh, now is it locked up? Oh, no. There we go. What do you think? She spins kind of good.
Yeah.
It's real free spinning. This part's kind of crazy to me. They had this crank pulley off. This one's aftermarket and it's pinned, which means they went through the trouble of paying this crank but didn't do a cam. I really don't understand why you wouldn't do that. Yeah, as expected. Wow. It is also possible, I guess, that metal got wedged in here during the failure and broke the timing chain, but I don't know, at the end of the day, what truly happened to this thing. The one golden rule that I try my best to live by, even when we're gambling on absolute trash like this, is protect your downside. Even when things go south, make sure you're not going to lose too much money. I found that even in the worst case scenarios, and I think by all means we can call this a worst case scenario, if you're attentive to that, things don't really go too bad. We were able to recoup enough to get, I think, our money back. If you get yourself set up where when things go badly, you lose, I don't know, $1,000 bucks, but when things go well, you make $5,000, $10,000. Over the long term, you'll do just fine, even buying ridiculous shit like this. Got a free supercharger. I mean, we can't complain, right? I guess we'll just have to go back to the drawing board and find some other piece of junk to buy to try to get our free engine. We'll get them next time.
Definitely.
Will this be another huge W, or will we, you know... I can't even say my shoe's full of fiberglass.
Can I close the door now, right?
Would you be willing to pay $1,000 for it?
I think we can make that work.
I didn't tell him to say no. I just assumed he was going to say no. So now we got to do it again.